Warning! The jumps in this game are performed by highly trained professionals who also are digital puppets made of polygons and pixels. You are made of meat. Soft, squishy meat. Even your bones will turn to mush if they hit the ground hard enough. Take this into account the next time you parachute off the side of a mountain. Buildings, antennas, spans, Earth. 50-50 shot that you didn't know that the base in base jumping was an acronym. Never tell me I don't teach you nothing. Base jumping exists because skydivers weren't getting enough of a thrill leaping out of airplanes and looked at mountains, bridges, and skyscrapers and thought, hold my beer. The term was coined by Carl Banish, whose films helped popularize this mostly illegal and unbelievably dangerous activity. You could say it's the perfect activity to turn into a video game. Now, the last time I looked at a game that came out of Russia in the mid-2000s, I found Rig and Roll, without a doubt the greatest story-based truck simulator with a banging soundtrack that humanity will ever produce. But that team had experience, had literally invented the truck sim as we know it today, and sprung forth out of a company that had its roots in the Soviet space program. The same cannot be said for Digital Dimension Development, a group who described themselves as guided on production of a wide spectrum of graphic, animation, and multimedia products. Whatever that means. They came out of nowhere with a dream to make a base jumping simulator. D3, as they were also known, built their own engine, incorporated the state-of-the-art IGEA PhysX simulation, and sought out the consultation from Russian base jumper Valery Rozov, who still holds the record for the highest base jump to this very day. Not entirely coincidentally, the Russian language release of the game features his name and face on the cover. Base jumping was released in 2007 and was followed up immediately by a German language release published by Atari, this time featuring an endorsement by Felix Baumgartner, most famous at that point for crossing the English Channel strapped to a carbon fiber wing. This was still a few years before his much publicized Red Bull-sponsored record-breaking Stratosphere skydive, a record that incidentally was broken 2 years later by a retired Google exec. Baumgartner was a bit of a right-wing dickbag, so I'm not going to be spending too much time on him. The game had one more release as the Web Edition, stripped of all endorsements and purchasable from the D3 website, which included one more location and additional missions. Several patches would be released for all versions until 2009 when they concluded support for the game and closed up shop. This incomplete archive of the game's forum shows how that happened. In order, you have the announcement of digital sales ceasing, the departure of the game's designer, Alexander Pitryayev, what I assume is a release of all the game's promotional art, the threads themselves aren't archived, so I can't check, a final patch, and then the announcement of the game's source code being released, which admittedly is a very cool thing for them to do. Base jumping was the only game to come out of Digital Dimension development. Alexander Pitryayev has a credit on a Rise of Flight game and a few mobile games, but it seems like base jumping, with or without Felix Baumgartner, was his magnum opus. Base jumping is a game about jumping from bases. Sorry, just had to make that clear. But how much game can you get from hitting a button to jump and then hitting a button to deploy your parachute? A game like a reckless disregard for gravity makes it more exciting with very arcadey gameplay and abstract environments. The Just Cause games add a little thing called a giant open world and a lot of explosions. But a simulation, by its very nature, has to be more grounded. Simulation is the key word here, and base jumping featuring whoever is a simulation on two fronts. The first is straightforward. Yes, you press a button to jump, but you also have to position yourself before the leap, have some manner of air control, especially with a wingsuit, and have to take into account your character's weight and height and the wind speed and direction. Your gear has wear and tear, your parachute has timing parameters, and your cords can get tangled upon deployment. If your landing is too hard, you can get injured, which leads to the other side of the simulation. Gravity is one thing, but there are much stronger forces at play here. Your health, yes, but also income, travel and lodging costs, and the ceaseless march of time. This game has a career mode, and it's a kind of life management sim. Graphically simplistic, but deceptively deep. base jumping does not pay the bills. For this, you need to spend time, real time, at the work factory. Now, doing your job merely consists of you just clicking on the work button and hitting fast forward until you've got enough money for whatever it is you want to do, but there is a bit more to it. Spend more time at work and you'll get promotions, leading to higher income. Take a long sabbatical to go jump off cliffs and bridges just for the adrenaline, and you might get demoted. Break some bones with a rough landing, and you'll have to spend time in the hospital, which will incur medical costs and time spent doing nothing else. To get invited to events, you'll have to gain skills through experience and build up a reputation, but traveling to these exotic real-world locations also takes time and costs money. Some locations are only legal to jump from during an event, so it might be worth the thrill, but you will get penalized. Events also give you unique opportunities, such as interesting challenges or jumping with a group. If you run out of cash due to mountains of medical debt, you'll just be shipped to your home drop zone, from which you can then start over. While it's a decently complex system to give the jumping some kind of context, a world your character is a part of, make it more than just a tech demo, in the end, the jumping is what it's all about. You standing there at the top, closing your eyes, taking a deep breath, and making that leap. Then it's just you and the wind, your clothes rippling as you carve your way through the sky, and the forest popping in as you approach the ground. It's not really a looker, this game. The environments are vast, but the lighting is flat. A lot of love clearly went into the modeling and animation of the parachutes, and the first-person mode is legitimately a thrill to use, but your head has no shadow in first person. In spite of a fully functional heads-up display, the wind indicator annoyingly is just an icon in the distance. I wish your character's legs were a little more animated. I wish the smoke system wasn't entirely broken for me. But it's a Russian game from 2007 and I'm playing it almost 2 entire decades later. Of course it's going to be janky and buggy, and it's all the more fascinating for it. The game's music is provided mostly by Russian rock band Dirty Moleculas, and while it's energetic enough, that energy is really misplaced after you've pulled the ripcord and you're leisurely floating down to Earth. There is an in-depth tutorial, which is great because the manual is all but useless. I don't know if it's intentional, but I think there is a very, very valuable lesson in giving me instructions after instructing me to jump out of the helicopter. Now you may be wondering, how does Felix Baumgartner fit into all of this? Well, base jumping featuring Felix Baumgartner contains the promo for his DVD, an intro movie that's just a promo for his DVD, a picture of his face on the menu and loading screens, and a playable character which looks nothing like him and as far as I can tell is different only in the sense that you can't buy any other gear. I would love to show you more of this edition, but the disk installer also has a link to bonus items, which leads to an empty folder. I assume the Valery Rozov version is similar, though I wasn't even able to get the installer to run. Look, it's a rough game. It's very buggy, it's very inscrutable, and I think to get the most out of it, you're gonna have to be motivated to spend a lot of time with it. I still don't understand how the score system works, and the life management parts excited me at first, but ended up mostly consisting of hitting the fast forward button to make the time pass, either to heal yourself, to wait for an event, or to make enough money to buy the high tier gear before you even know what you're doing. There's a lot of versions of this game floating around out there. If you want to give it a shot, you'll want to get the Pro Edition, which is a fan compilation with a bunch of fixes and added mods that'll have the best chance of running on your current computer. It'll still be buggy as hell, but it's easily the best way to play the game. They even give you a pre-made character with everything unlocked, so you can start doing backflips without all the grinding. The website for the Pro Edition download teases the announcement of something called On Borrowed Wings, the base jumping game. And that tease is all that exists about it as far as I can tell. So Carl Banish, the father of modern base jumping, he died in 1984 at the age of 43, jumping off a mountain in Norway. Valery Rozov died doing the same thing in Nepal in 2017. And Red Bull's golden boy Felix Baumgartner died last year in a paragliding mishap. So it goes. I'll be honest, I don't think I gave this game the time it deserved, mostly because it wouldn't let me. But there's something here, isn't there? Something broken and glitchy and buggy and a complete mess to run on modern computers. Something inscrutable, impenetrable, and nearly incomprehensible. But there's something. It's clearly made with love, with all the care the developers were capable of giving it, and with a true passion for replicating this sport in a digital form. If you know what you're doing, if the game runs without numerous graphical glitches, if you put in the time like these elder YouTubers did many years ago, you can make quite breathtaking jump videos, which, from what I can tell, is half of what base jumping is all about. On a technical level, it's kind of a disaster, but it's ambitious, it's unique, and it's a beautiful example of one of my favorite things in game development, when a dev team reaches far beyond their grasp. Although, to be entirely fair, I don't think I'm qualified to be able to judge if they succeeded or failed. Not only have I never jumped a base, I get woozy just at the thought of getting up off the couch too quickly. All I know is, while playing this game, I lost all my points nearly getting bisected by a TV mast cable, and while it was awesome, that's definitely not something you should try at home.
Hey, if you're still here, say base, base, base in the comments.